It's the Kenneth L. Johnson Show live on WPPM 106.5 Philadelphia. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson, the world's #1 recruiter. This is the work we do. We are in the midst of our leadership series. Really excited to have you guys here today to lock in with us. Thank you so very much for joining us. And for all the people that supported the WPPM Fund Drive, thank you for just locking in and showing your support for the work we do here at WPPM 106.5 Philadelphia. All right, Philly, what's good? I know you're locked in on 106.5. I know you're locked in on the stream. People that are locked in on LinkedIn, thank you so very much for joining us today. And for our Facebook family, I think we have some Facebook friends out here as well. We appreciate you. I'm really excited about the show today for a lot of different reasons. We have a return visitor to the show, and that will be amazing. So, all right, I want to give everybody a chance to participate in the show. So please do not hesitate to call 646-600-8510, 646-600-8510. This is the Q&A segment of the Executive Leadership Series, and that's why we brought Executive Coach Nicole Smith to the Kenneth L. Johnson Show. Nicole, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm excellent. You know what? It's a beautiful day here in the city of Philadelphia. Everybody is showing me love when I'm walking around the streets of the city. I'm feeling it. You know, we do a big thing here in Philly. It's called the 4th of July, but we start that whole celebration. You know, it's
little thing y'all do. It's just you guys, huh?
Little thing we do. We started it, right? We started it here.
Yeah.
So it's 250 years of being America, and we are celebrating it in a big way, and you can feel that as you walk around the city. For anybody that's not in the city, this is the summer that you should come. Between the FIFA World Cup stuff and the MLB All-Star Game is here in Philly this year. A lot of stuff going on in the city, but really it's the 250-year anniversary of the country that has people really excited. They're doing block parties all around the city all summer long. So, you know, I'm going to tune in. All the ones in South Philly, I'll be there. Everybody in South Philly, just know I will be at your block party. But around the city, I'm going to try to hit up a few of them. So that is your welcome to the Kenneth L. Johnson Show today.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Listen, as you know, I spent a little bit of time in Philly, just a little bit, enough to know that I really enjoy it. It's a great place. It's a lot of fun. I can only imagine it's so welcoming and like enjoyable on just a normal summer like weekend or what have you. I can only imagine what's going on now. But yeah, happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday, America. You know, to speak about welcoming and enjoyable, we welcome you to the Kenneth L. Johnson Show. We enjoy having you here every time you show up. It's kind of our Coach's Corner segment when we invite Nicole in to do what she does and does extremely well, coach. And with that being said, it's the Executive Leadership Series. And, you know, you brought this to my attention. I was just trying to bring you on to do another Q&A segment. And when you started speaking about, you know, just let's focus on some executive stuff, I was like, oh, yeah, that's it. That's what we should do. It's the Executive Leadership Series. So now we got Nicole Smith, Executive Coach.
See how it works out? Everything just always has a way of working itself out, doesn't it?
Everything works out. All right. So look, Nicole, what we did, we had people call in to 600-646-8510, and we had people hit us up online. They hit us on Instagram. They hit us on the Facebook page. They've hit us all over the place to ask questions of you. When people heard you were coming on the show, the lights on the phone just started going crazy. So that's what you do for us here on the Kenneth L. Johnson Show.
You know, I got to start coming here like every week. If I was feeling like, you know, a little down or not confident, like this is the place to be. I'm usually the one who's like the encourager and the builder. I always say like that's what I love to do. I love to build. And, you know, now I build careers, I build brands, I build confidence in people. And so I got to come here to get my build. Very nice. Such a warm welcome.
We got you. We don't do feeling down over here. We don't do it. We just don't do it. Listen, you've been to the station, so we're about a half a block from the Liberty Bell.
This is true.
So we ring the bell. We ring the bell before we come in. It gets us feeling good. And
you ring the bell?
we ring the bell. We walk across the lawn at Independence Hall and ring the bell before we come in. We can.
Have you tell it you're gonna be lighting the candles on the birthday cake like 250. Like you're in it. You're throwing the party.
If they need someone to do it, I think I should be considered. I mean, listen, you got Ben Franklin, you got William Penn, Sherelle Parker, she's the mayor. We like her. Then probably me. I'm just gonna put it out there. Let me talk.
Hey, the only thing they can say is no, and you shouldn't be the person who says no to you. Let other people do it. So act as if it is already done, friend. Act as if it's already done.
Nicole, I always feel like I'm a leader, right? And I know this is the executive leadership series, but a lot of people don't feel that way. And it leads me to one of the questions that we had from the audience. So we had a caller that called in and they said they don't feel like they have a leadership style. What can they do to develop that? And what does the process look like?
Okay. Well, that's actually a really good question. I'm sure if they've been watching the show, they've seen different people show up and everybody's talking about how they approach leadership. And it's easy to believe that like some people have a style and some people don't. But my position is that we all have a leadership style. If you are in a leadership position or in leading in any way, the difference is some people's leadership style is intentional and some are leading by default. Or even by accident, right? So like the default is you just kind of try to do what you liked in other people, or maybe try to avoid the things you didn't like from other leaders, or maybe you're just switching it up in the moment. And so when I work with people to create their leadership style, or really to define their leadership style, there's a couple things that come into play. So what's already working for you or not working for you, and what would you like to see? So that's like the baseline, right? Because there's probably some things that are really working for you and you want to keep that. You want to keep the things you love. And then let's get rid of the things you don't. And then to layer on top of that, we want to know, what do you value? What's the impact that you want to have? And those are two of the biggest things that you have to define for yourself. Like, what do I value? What's important to me? And what's the impact that I want to have as a leader? We've seen the research that says your leadership, especially at work, really has one of the largest impacts on your life, on anyone's life. So if you think about it, you're not just leading the work, you're leading people, you're leading humans, and you're going to have an impact on their life. What impact do you want to have? And there's this fun exercise I do with my clients where we kind of think about, what stories do you want to be told about you in rooms that you're not in today, and in rooms that you might be in your 100th birthday or years from now? What do you want people to say about you and your leadership? And that's what you're creating on the day-to-day. So the simple answer is you create your leadership style by honing in on who you are, what you value, and then being intentional about infusing that into everything you do. I'll add one last thing. There's no shortage of information about leadership. There's all kinds of frameworks. There's books. You can take in so much information. But the most important information about your leadership style and how you will show up as a leader comes from you. So if you're not taking time to sit with yourself, either on your own or with someone who's trained to kind of pull that information out of you, you're never going to figure out what your specific style is. And you have one. It should be unique to you, and it'll be the most effective and the most enjoyable way to lead.
You know what? I've been fortunate enough to have people that I've reported to that had a variety of different leadership styles. And I believe I was successful in taking bits and pieces from each one to kind of formulate my own.
Yeah.
Do you see that happens in the workspace?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we can borrow things from people like, oh, I like the way they handle that. I like the way they approach this situation. I worked within an organization. They were so blessed. They have a leader who is absolutely incredible. And I worked with their leadership team. There was a number of people on their leadership team. And I asked each of them as we were working through what their leadership style was and how they wanted to be defined as a leader. I said, who do you think is a good leader? And without question, every single one of them said their leader. And I asked them, well, what is it about her that you love or admire so much? And what's interesting is each one of them had something different that they were pulling from her from her example, because she was leading as an example and they were able to extract what was meaningful to them. And so absolutely do that. What you don't want to do is say, I'm going to copy and paste, right? I want to be exactly like that person, because unfortunately, that person's secret sauce is who they are. So you're never going to be able to be another person, but that doesn't mean you can't learn from another person.
I love that. You know, we had Myrtle on LinkedIn. She's saying lead with respect versus intimidation and fear.
Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of people will think that leadership means compliance, getting people to do exactly what you want them to do when you want to do it. But true leadership cannot run strictly on force or compliance. It takes a lot of influence, negotiation, inspiration. Another analogy, because they're like my favorite things, but Myrtle, like, here's like, I think of it like music, right? When you're making good music, if the music's got a good bass line, a good drum beat, you don't have to force people to dance. They can't help it. They want to dance. They want to follow. They want to join in, right? But if you were to take that same drum and use a hammer and just whack at it with a hammer, nobody's coming to join the dance, right? So as a leader, it's not about forcing people to follow you, right? Or convincing them to follow you. It's about inviting them to join you, crafting a vision and having them come along. And if you do that, it has so much more longevity than a more compliance forceful approach. So she was spot on.
You know, we're all about music here at WPPM 106.5. It's the sound of Philadelphia. That's what we do. So Nicole, I just want to personally invite you to the block party. If that's what it's going to take, if you want to be dancing in the streets,
listen. This is just a little aside exclusively for the Kenneth L. Johnson Show listeners. Like, I am a member of the Rhythmless Nation. Like, I'm not the best dancer, but I don't mind trying, and I don't mind, maybe looking a little silly as long as we're having a good time.
Well, you don't dance around these questions. You get right to them, and I can appreciate that. So listen, you work with executives in companies like, I don't know, Meta, Microsoft, Tesla. So what's the most common thing high-level leaders get wrong about leadership?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I mean, everybody's an individual. And I would say, like, even people who are in those high profile, what might be considered elite organizations, and even people who are in smaller organizations, I think one of the things that people sometimes miss, because I hate to say that they're getting it wrong, but they definitely miss, is that leaders don't have to have all the answers, right? What you want to do is you want to have a very clear and compelling vision. That's what people are looking for. What is your clear and compelling vision that, once again, you're inviting people to join in on? So people are going to lend themselves, their time, their talent, sometimes their treasure to your vision. It needs to be a good one, and it needs to be a clear one. Are you able to not only craft the vision, but articulate it in a way that people are like, hey, I want to be a part of that? And I think that cuts down on the forcefulness, or like when people say that they don't feel like they're influential or they don't feel like they're respected. A lot of times it's because you don't have a clear vision. It's not about the work anymore. You're going to get to a level where it's not about the actual like physical work. There's people to do that. It's going to be about crafting the vision and bringing people along.
Wow, bringing people along. All right, so I'm looking in the chat. And I'm saying, hey, Amy Louise, thank you for checking in. We appreciate you. Yes, it is about the music. All right. So Nicole, I was listening to you speak about this, and I know you've coached hundreds of people, if not thousands. What's the single most impactful thing someone gets from coaching?
That's a really good question. And so instinctively, I would say peace. Okay. Like, if you're doing it right, what you're going to get is peace. You're going to quiet those thoughts, the self-doubt, the questioning. You're going to have a clear path forward. You're going to know what your next step is. So all that noise that's going on in your brain about, I could be better at this, I'm not doing this isn't working, self-doubt, fear, those things, they get a lot quieter, because now you have a plan, you have a strategy, you're working through that, hopefully. And I can only speak for coaching with me. I mean, coaching can be different depending on what kind of coach you have and who you're working with. But I hope that anyone who works with me, that they walk away with peace, that they feel better about what they're doing, and that there's a little bit more love there, that they love what they do and they love how they're doing it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that piece. I think more importantly now than ever, there's so much chaos going around us, and even uncertainty as people are navigating very delicate workplaces for a lot of different reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you kind of work with your clients around some of the, is it always the internal thing that you're coaching on, or for leaders, do you touch on some of the external, noise?
Yeah, I mean, listen, just because you're in a leadership role doesn't mean you stop being a human being. At the end of the day, this is about leadership is really an exercise in human behavior. Leadership, that's what it is. It's like understanding humans, leading humans. And the best way to understand a human is to be human yourself and recognize your humanity. And don't let anybody steal that from you. It's yours. You're entitled to it. It's one of the few things in this world that you are entitled to is like your own humanity. So yeah, there is some internal and external. So internal meaning like inside yourself. I think it was our first show we ever did. I talked about leading yourself and how you have to lead yourself first. That's important. And so that's some of the internal work, whether that's mindset work, habits work. And sometimes it's internal, meaning like in your company as well, or in your internal team. And then also external, meaning external forces, like what's going on in the world. I mean, that's like basic business strategy, right? Like you look at the 5 forces and things that impact business, they also impact leadership. And then also like external, meaning like outside your department or even outside, like maybe other colleagues. So like, yeah, it is an inside outside back and forth type of thing. And so you have to address all of that at certain times and at different levels.
Appreciate that. All right, listen, I want to get to some of these questions. I keep receiving them, and I don't want people to feel left out here. I could talk to you forever. All right, look, we got a question from Carl. I keep hearing that I need more executive presence, but no one can really explain what that means. How do I actually develop it?
Oh, Carl, this is something that a lot of people ask, and I have lots of people who come to me and they're like, I just need to work on my executive presence. And I used to have a really like kind of hard time with this term because I've seen it be used as vague feedback. So people getting feedback of like, well, you just need a more executive presence. And it was really just a cover for them to say, I want you to be more like other people, or I want you to be more like me, or I want you to be more like what I have this like internal idea of what a leader is. And that may not necessarily be who you are. And that shouldn't mean that you don't have executive presence, that you're not showing up. So for me, when someone comes to me with that, I usually try to drill down to see like what they're missing. And if you've gotten that feedback, I want you to push back and I want you to ask questions like, what does that, you can just even give the context. A lot of people define executive presence differently. What does that mean for you? But if we were specifically working the other part of your question about how do you build it, I think executive presence has a few building blocks. The first one is like confidence, and confidence is pretty vague, so I'll get more specific. It's the type of confidence you have when you're confident in what you do and you are confident in how you do it. You feel very good about that. You also have the confidence that you have when you feel like you belong in the room and you know that you add value and that you're supposed to be there. And a lot of people struggle with that for a number of reasons, whether they are internal factors or societal factors. And it's something that no one really wants to talk about, but we have to work through it. You belong in the room that you're in and you bring value everywhere you go. The other building block to that is taking up and owning the space. A lot of people struggle with that. They don't want to take up space. They want to be as small as possible. And that means taking up space, not just physical space, but space with your ideas and your voice. Doing that definitely lends to people seeing you more as an authority and being more influential. And then also just like knowing what works for you and what doesn't, and apologetically advocating for that, asking for that, and creating that. Because people aren't going to necessarily give it to you. Sometimes you have to build it on your own. So I think executive presence obviously is multifaceted. There's a lot of pieces, but I think it helps to really like break it down into like those pieces. And once you start to build those blocks, you'll see yourself showing up in places a lot differently and people responding to you a lot differently as well.
Man, the building blocks so important. It's the Kenneth L. Johnson Show live on WPPM 106.5 Philadelphia. All right, look, I'm looking. Myrtle just put emotional intelligence in the actual chat from LinkedIn. Such an important thing for good leaders to embrace and understand. I know we've had conversations on past shows about emotional intelligence. For those of us who don't necessarily understand what that is, can you give us your definition?
Yeah, well, I mean, emotional intelligence there's building, again, me and my building blocks. I mean, Lego sponsorship, here we go. Yeah. But emotional intelligence has some core components, right? And so the components are self-management, like being able to recognize your emotions when you might be feeling a certain way and how you manage that, experience that and manage that within yourself. There's an element of relationship management, how you manage relationships with others. There's the element of managing emotions in others. Like when someone else is dysregulated or maybe their emotions are heightened or lower, how are you dealing with that? And then there's also just the idea of the work management, right? Like how do you bring people together and how do you like bring that all together in a work atmosphere? So emotional intelligence at the end of the day is really an awareness thing, right? You being aware that emotions are in the room and being aware of not only yours, but others. I think that's the simplest way to put it. For a very long time, and you know, this is a hill that I will die on. For a very long time, people were giving the worst advice, which is like, take emotion out of it. But what we're realizing is we don't need any more emotionalist bots. We have lots of those these days, like more every day. And what's really incumbent on us as leaders is to bring the emotion back in, to experience it, to name it, to recognize it, and know how to manage it and know how to be in the presence of it and still keep our goals in mind and still be able to achieve those goals. So like, don't take the emotion out of it. That's what differentiates us from the bots.
All right. Another question from Erica here, 646-600-8510. Thank you, Erica, for locking in. Nicole, things tend to slow down at work over the summer. What are the best things to do or invest in during that time?
Oh, okay. So if your work is the type that slows down in the summer, I would say this is the great time to invest in relationships. Relationships right now are like the currency of all things. And this is for people who may be currently employed or those who are looking for their next opportunity. Invest in relationships. This is when you do your networking. If company-wide it's kind of slower, these are the times where maybe you can have a coffee or go sit and chat or have lunch with someone. That's the thing I would say, number one, to invest in. Number two is in your own personal and professional development. Do you have time to sit in on a webinar? Is this a good time for you to start with a coach? A lot of people think like, oh, you know, I'll do it in the fall. And I just wrote something on LinkedIn over the weekend about that. I was like, seriously? People are like, oh yeah, the summer, like I'm not thinking about work. I just want to relax. I'll do it in the fall. And I'm like, you mean the fall where you're going to be doing budgets? The fall when you're going to be like maybe doing back to school and all these other things? The fall when like the holidays are looming? Like it's not going to get better. That's just a very nice way of procrastinating. If there's something that you've been wanting to do, especially maybe a goal you set at the beginning of the year, the summertime is the best time to get started. You don't have to go all in. Maybe it's just, what is the next best step?
All right, Nicole, this question does not surprise me because you were in Philadelphia. Were you ever at Love Park?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you were at Love Park. You know they call this the city of brotherly love
and sisterly
affection. Yes.
Yes.
This is a love question that we have here, right? But not in the way you see it. Erica says you talk a lot about leading with love. That's not language we usually hear in corporate America. What do you mean by it, and why does it matter?
Yeah, you know, it goes back to and Amy Louise, thank you for saying this, that emotions are important indicators. Like they're important personalized information. But more than anything, I think in my career, I've been fortunate to work around a lot of people who love what they do. And I think the people who find the love in what they do enjoy their work more and really do a better job. And if you're successful by objective measures, but there's no love there, I don't know. In my opinion, I don't know if we can call that a success, right? There needs to be some love there. And I think just at a time in the world, in our lives, where it seems like there's more hate being centered or being platformed more than ever, that as leaders, we have this fantastic opportunity, an incredible opportunity to infuse more love. And so, and I don't mean like, romantic love necessarily, although I'm all for that. I'm a very well loved person and I can appreciate that. But I think it's just knowing what you love. Do you know what your team members love? Like, what do they love about the job or the company? If you're a marketer, which I still consider myself a marketer in a lot of ways, what's the love for the customer is what makes marketing fun. I love them and want to create something wonderful for them. I mean, right now we're in the middle of the NBA finals. I mean, whether you're a Knicks fan or a Spurs fan, there's a love for the game, like to bring that much energy and to bring that much hard work and to play that entire long season. And you could see from the fans how much they love it. Like, what would life be without that? So I think understanding that that work is just a small part of our life. You wouldn't want a life without love, which means you can't have work without love either. Kind of a long answer. I could talk about it forever, but trust me, you got to find the love.
I'm going to platform this. I think for this city, some of our major employers, they really need to consider that, having you come in and talk about love. It just
I would be happy to.
Yeah, it makes complete sense to me. So all my city leaders or organizations, not just in Philly, but everywhere, we need a little more of that. There's a lot of hate going on right now. And I'm not talking about love, hate in that fashion, but I just think that people need to start loving what they do, loving the way they interact with others. And I just think there's a space to have those conversations. And it sounds like you've hit that right on the head. All right, listen, if someone is listening right now and thinking, I need this, what's the first step to working with Nicole Smith?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you asking that question. Well, the first step is really easy. You just sign up for a consult. And what we'll do is we'll get on a call. You can schedule it yourself on my website. And we'll get on a call and we'll talk about like what your situation is and how I might be able to help. I'll ask a ton of questions. I always love asking questions and getting to know people and their stories. And that's really the first step. It's that simple. It's just a conversation.
It's just a conversation. We had a great one today. I always appreciate your visits to the Kenneth L. Johnson Show. This is what we do. I think oftentimes when we speak about executive leadership, it's a very stiff conversation. And that's no knock against my guests that have been here prior. I've enjoyed all the conversations, but I think we had a chance today to sit back and just have a Q&A about kind of what's going on inside of the head of a top executive. And I took a lot of things. I took emotional intelligence. I took love. I took being clear and understanding the people that are watching you lead and that you're responsible for. Anything that I missed that you're like, hey, I want people to take this away from this conversation?
No, I mean, I think there's so much. I mean, just like anything in life, like I hope there was something here that you could take away and that was meaningful to you and some things that you can leave behind. You don't have to take everything. I think that's where we kind of falter. There's so much coming at us every day. So if there's just one thing that you caught in this conversation, take that one thing and this week try to apply it. And if you're struggling to apply it, then, reach out and let's talk about it. But, I think one of the biggest struggles we all have right now is overwhelm and trying to do everything all at the same time. Just pick one thing and do it really well and start there.
Share that information again, please.
To hang out with me? Yeah, you can go to my website is I am smitten, the letter I, the letter M, SMITN.com, or hang out with me on LinkedIn. Yeah,
listen, take advantage of that consult. I think I'm going to lock in myself, actually. I need some support in that way, especially after doing this leadership series. I'm starting to realize where maybe even here at East Coast Executives, I may be falling short in supporting the people that do so much for me each and every day and making this thing go. So you may see me locking in on that website. All right. We did it again. It's the Kenneth L. Johnson Show live, WPPM 106.5 Philly. Excited to bring you the Executive Leadership Series. This was a piece that I hadn't put into the plan. And I think that's important because sometimes we have a plan, but we need to be open to adding, adjusting, redefining, and still moving forward with said plan. And that happened today here on the Kenneth L. Johnson Show. Nicole Smith, thank you so very much for joining us. For all my people out here in Philly, people on LinkedIn, Facebook, on the stream, 106.5 FM, I appreciate you. Thank you for riding with us. Take care. I'll see you next Monday.